Years ago, back in the early 70s, my dad would often come home frustrated, complaining about someone drinking his iced sweet tea that he had packed for lunch. It was always half gone by the time he was ready to eat. He couldn't figure out if they were using a cup or drinking straight from the thermos, but considering the group he worked with, he didn't want to take any chances. This left him with nothing but water for lunch. It happened multiple times, and finally, he decided he had to take action. So he went to the pharmacy and asked for the most powerful laxative they had. The pharmacist was curious and asked why he needed such a strong one. My dad explained the situation, and the pharmacist, an older gentleman who had been running the store for most of his life, advised against it. He warned my dad about the potential risks, like dehydration and other problems. Instead, he handed my dad a bottle labeled Essence of Peppermint and instructed him to pour the entire bottle into the thermos. If anyone asked what was in the tea, the pharmacist told him to simply say, "Don't worry about it." In a way, that was true. Drinking the whole bottle would only help settle your stomach if you had indigestion, nothing more. The following day, my dad took the spiked tea to work, and just as expected, at lunchtime, he discovered that someone had taken another sip from the tea. He closed the thermos, confident that soon he would find out who the culprit was, and he proceeded to finish his lunch. A few minutes later, a coworker approached him, clutching his stomach and demanding to know what was in the tea. My dad calmly replied, "Don't worry about it." Shortly after, that coworker had to leave work feeling sick. Not long after that, his wife called my dad, concerned and asking about the contents of the tea. Her husband was groaning in pain, convinced he had been poisoned. My dad reassured her and told her what was actually in the tea. He advised her to call the pharmacist and confirm that it was harmless. The wife couldn't even say goodbye properly. She was laughing too hard before hanging up the phone.
When my wife was 7 months pregnant, we knew she wouldn't return to work after maternity leave. However, she had planned to continue working until the very day her water broke. A few months before her due date, there was a reorganization at her workplace, and she actually received a promotion and a slight raise. But unfortunately, her new direct manager, who held a corporate position, had never treated my wife with respect in her previous role. As my wife embarked on a major project during the following months, she diligently documented everything to ensure a smooth transition during her absence. However, her new boss started excessively micromanaging her. The situation escalated when the director, let's call her Patrice, because damn it, Patrice, gradually started taking away responsibilities from my wife. It seemed like she was intentionally setting things up to eliminate my wife's role while she was on leave. According to the law, they only needed to provide a comparable position upon her return, not the exact same role. Finally, Patrice called my wife into HR for a formal reprimand, accusing her of having a bad attitude, unprofessional conduct, and even lying to coworkers. After discussing it together, my wife and I decided to say, screw them. The next day, she handed in her 1-week notice. Things went haywire, and there were many questions, especially from coworkers and upper management. My wife simply stated that it was best for her to leave in preparation for her upcoming absence. Then came the transition meeting. My wife invited Patrice, her coworkers, her superiors, and the vendor involved in the project. During that meeting, my wife meticulously presented the project plans up to that point, complete with a detailed timeline. She included notes from previous meetings, validating emails from Patrice, and records of meeting requests that Patrice had declined or failed to attend. She highlighted the introduction of new processes implemented by Patrice, which significantly delayed many project milestones. My wife told me that after providing the third example of delayed delivery due to Patrice's unresponsiveness or sudden need to involve her friends for feedback, it became evident to everyone present that Patrice was the reason behind the project's setbacks and increased costs. The final slide my wife presented contained the official complaints Patrice had filed with HR, along with compelling evidence refuting each one. My wife informed me that Patrice was equally furious and embarrassed, and the leadership decided to remove her from the project. Before leaving, my wife shared her contact information, expressing her availability for consulting services at competitive rates. She completed her 1-week notice and walked away.
I used to work as a trade painter for a company where the owner didn't involve himself much. When I got a job offer from a bigger commercial company, my boss realized he would have to run his own company since there was no one else qualified. However, instead of handling it maturely, he acted childish to make me stay. He made it difficult for me to receive my final payment and refused to return my tools scattered across different job sites. That's when I decided it was time for revenge. Luckily, I received an even better offer from an even bigger company that wanted to subcontract a significant amount of work to me. But for that, I needed more employees. So I called each and every member of the original company and offered them a $3 raise per hour to work for me. They all accepted because they knew me, had worked with me for years, and it meant more money for them. It was a no-brainer for them since they barely knew the owner. And whatever they did know, they didn't like. I asked them to only bring my tools back from their respective jobs when they left for the weekend on Friday. Monday arrived, and my old boss was bombarded with calls from supervisors wondering why no one showed up for work and what was happening. He was so hands-off that he didn't even have his employees' contact information to reach out to them. At this point, he had no employees and very few tools to complete any jobs. 6 months passed and his company had to shut down. He lost all his work and his new house addition remained half-finished. He was in a tough spot. Although I never received my final paycheck, I gained a fantastic team of workers and started my own successful company. I guess we can consider it even now.
A couple of weeks ago, something happened that I witnessed the result of earlier today. Here's what you need to know. I live in a mostly Mormon neighborhood, but I'm not Mormon myself. One of my neighbors across the street has always been critical of me. Probably because of our religious differences. We've never interacted before he started causing trouble. He has 10 children. About a month ago, on trash day, he told one of his kids to kick my trash can into the street. I saw everything. It wasn't the first time he had done this, and I didn't think it would make a difference if I asked them to stop. On that same day, a friend reminded me of the pen pal I used to have when I was younger, before I moved. Later that night, while browsing the web, I stumbled upon a website called prisonpenpals.com. It caught my attention, and out of curiosity, I visited the site. It had profiles of prisoners who were looking for pen pals. While looking around, I found a guy on death row for murder. I felt sorry for him, but I didn't want to share my address. On the website, you send an email, and the guards print it out and give it to the prisoner, who then writes a letter back to you. That's when I remembered my troublesome neighbor. So not with any real ill intent, but more out of curiosity, I wrote a detailed letter pretending to be a trapped, secretly gay Mormon man with 10 kids, looking to have an affair with a prisoner. I put my neighbor's address as the recipient and hit send. It was a petty act that gave me a bit of satisfaction. I didn't expect anything to come out of it. I thought he would just see the letter, not open it, and toss it aside, forgetting about it. But boy, was I wrong. Of course, it's a small town, and this guy runs a small business where one of my acquaintances works. I went there earlier today and had a chat with my acquaintance. That's when he said, "Oh my God, did you hear about neighbor?" I had no idea, so he filled me in on all the details. Apparently, one of my neighbor's kids brought in the mail, and it was his wife who found the letter from the prisoner responding to the joke letter I had written. I don't know the exact contents of the response, but I do know that his wife completely lost it when he came home and she made him pack his bags. According to my acquaintance, this wasn't the first time neighbor had tried to start an affair with another man, and it seems like this was the final straw for his wife. I'm still in disbelief, a bit horrified, and highly amused by this situation.
Please like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you.